Yojo Senki, Chapter 4 Saga of Tanya the Elder. We're back on the Rhine front. Visha cannot believe it. Imperial Western Command, 7th Assault Brigade, 205th Mage Assault Company, 2nd Lieutenant Tanya Degrachev was her commander. What was her first impression of her commander? Vampire. She's a vampire. Not the sparkly vampire. The scary vampire. Those cold eyes. She looks at recruits like a cat would eye a wounded mouse. A short tangent. We find here that recruits from cadet training were divided into two groups. Company D was for volunteers with their eyes on joining the officer corps, and Company C was for conscripted men and women who had no choice. Guess which one our girl Visha is? Yep. The first two platoon members seem to be nobles, judging by the Vons in their names, and give their introductions. We have corporals Kurt von Ballhoff and Harold von Ovest. Both come from Camp Heidelstein, Sea Battalion, 1st Company. So they must be the elites, or at least near the top of their class. And then we have shy and embarrassed Visha. Not sure if she really wants to speak up, but despite her anxiety, boot camp habits die hard, and she gives a very spirited introduction, and realizes that since Imperial mages fly as buddies, she'll probably be paired up with her lieutenant, because it is common sense to pair up members that already know one another and can work well together. And, by the looks of it, Harold and Kurt went through cadet training together, so they'll probably get paired. Tanya surprises Visha by respecting her sincere feeling to carry out her duties, even if she was conscripted into this mess. And that kind of puts her in a new light in Visha's eyes. And let's see here, we have, here's the title page for Chapter 4. Okay, we got our main characters. We got First Lieutenant Schwarzkopf, then we have Visha, and we have Tanya. And a camera. Tanya berates the two noobs who blindly jumped with both feet into enlistment, warning them, since they volunteered, there is no excuse for them dying after Corporal Severkov. Yeah, Visha's last name. Well, Visha's being forced to fight. They chose this. This is where Tanya starts upping the patriotism, all the way to 11. The Imperial Army has no time to babysit a bunch of green cadets. Since they chose to wear the uniform, then they had better be ready to do what was necessary to live up to that honor. Those deemed useless will die. I think here the three of them are stunned by her scathing diatribe and are unable to reply in any way. Sorskov is satisfied with her ability to put everyone in the place and leaves the three chicks to her tender, loving care. She tells her new subordinates to grab their field gear and to check it because they were going to go on a little team-building walk in the great outdoors. A walk? Yeah, well, it might be turned into a jog, at times a sprint. Flashes on the horizon indicating come artillery. Get down, cover your head, open your mouth, and pray. Why? And in that order? Well, the first two are to keep you from losing your head, literally. The third is to equalize the pressure in your body when the shock waves travel through you. And the last one is because, well, there's nothing else for you to do when the god of wars start talking and the ground starts shaking. We also see people sprinting through the trenches, with Tanya behind them, yelling at them to keep moving. Visha pulls off a beautiful yard sale, and, well, that adds to her cuteness. If you can't tell, she's my Oshi. I'm simping for her. Dazed, Visha pulls herself up on something warm, slippery, and a little fishy smelling. Was it mud? Mud made with hot water? Or was it the entrails of a bisected Imperial soldier impaled on the inside of a trench? It's the latter. Visha panics while Tanya tells her to shut up because it's embarrassing. That's not what soldiers do. Visha realizes that she is really in a war, with bombs raining down from the sky. Charging through the trenches, the feel of bayoneting her first enemy, holding her own against a Francois officer in melee, and being saved by her lieutenant in the last second. Visha finally comes to the conclusion that human life on the front lines is worth less than garbage. Volunteer, conscript, it didn't matter once they were covered in blood, mud, and offal. Unable to move smoothly, it was all over, and silence followed the screams. This experience was nothing new on the Rhine front. In fact, the veterans called these engagements regular deliveries. It was not any different than saying good morning. Something finally snapped inside of Visha's mind. She was no longer in cadet school. This was no dream. There was no Elia there to wake her up. Tanya congratulates Corporal Visha for surviving her first combat engagement. Visha can barely comprehend what just happened to her and is vomiting after realizing where she is and what she has done. Tanya tells Visha that it's a good thing war is such a miserable affair. There is no glory to be had here, so those that have experienced it will never want to do it again. Tanya then formally announces that Visha will be her wingman, and they two will form a cell, a two-man cell. Tanya sees Visha as a good decoy that won't steal her thunder, as Visha seems to have no promotional ambitions, while Visha sees Tanya as a truly kind and peace-loving person, despite her cold demeanor. More wonderful misunderstanding between characters. And here we have the silhouette scene. It happened in the past. Here we have the two other corporals. Can't even remember their names now. Harold and something else. The two corporals in Tanya's platoon were sent to the rear. They were sent to a defense emplacement for talking against their lieutenant. Not following orders. Ooh. And they would serve as reinforcements for the planned counterattack. Lucky for them, they were both given double promotions after a direct hit by a Francois artillery piece. This is what we call posthumous promotion. Another day, another battle. Schwarzkopf is quickly briefing his mage company that they will be carrying out a flanking maneuver on a Francois unit that is advancing under artillery cover. Everyone begins to move out, but Visha was surprised that they would be running into incoming artillery. Not away, not around, into it. She is brought back to her reality as Tanya tells her to get her pretty butt in gear and follow her while using her as a step stool to get out of the trench. Good use of subordinates. In flight, they witness an Imperial gun emplacement get wiped out by a direct artillery strike. Visha wants to help, but Tanya tells her that those poor fools are just unlucky. They have a mission to carry out. Visha sees how lacking her education at cadet school was. They never taught her that fixed positions were death traps when in range of enemy artillery. Once you get the amount of experience that Lieutenant Degrachev and Lieutenant Schwarzkopf have, then you understand why artillery is the only god on the battlefield that soldiers have faith in. Anyone is quick to learn when the iron fist of this god falls, and few walk away. That was why artillery spotters were so important. Visha remembers that this was the position Elia was taking up, and wonders if her friend really understood how valuable her work was. Schwarzkopf chides Tanya for showing up late. Tanya apologizes like a good officer does, but Visha steps up and says that it was actually her fault. Schwarzkopf jokes that the corporal needs a little more frontline experience to whip her into shape. Tanya then asks what the situation looks like, since she probably can't see over the trench wall. Schwarzkopf tells her that it looks like the Francois forces have taken over abandoned trenches, and were setting up their defenses already. Tanya remarks that they would be in trouble if the Francois managed to bring up field guns. Yeah, higher position would absolutely wreck Imperial forces from there, and you can already see silhouettes on the ridgeline there. Tanya then remarks that they would have to rely on the skills of the Imperial artillery crews to do their job, so she could do her job. And right as if she timed it, the first Imperial shells screamed overhead and started making ground meat. Massive explosions tear the Francois soldiers apart. Schwarzkopf begins praising his god for raining their blessings on the enemy and commends their tempo and rhythm. The rest of the company join in, singing hymns to uplift the name of their merciful lord. Schwarzkopf notices that their artillery battery was so kind as to soften up the soil in front of them with 120mm plowshares. That would make their job so much easier. The lieutenant feels this is the right time to attack and tells his company to get ready. Visha senses the tension spread through the company and begins to feel afraid. But she is surprised to find her lieutenant with a smile on her face. This reminds her that she needs to learn from Tanya and relax, because being too tense would just slow her down. So she does some slight exercises and deep breathing techniques. While next to her, Tanya is thanking her lucky stars that her mission just got a lot easier, as they now just had to slap around a beat-up enemy artillery unit. The perfect conditions for any battle. With a skip in her step and a tune on her lips, Tanya puts on her helmet and wishes that missions would always be this fun. Lieutenant Schwarzkopf jokingly berates her for being a picky eater, and if she doesn't shape up, she'll never grow big and strong. Tanya, on the other hand, fires back with her small stature makes for the surface area very small, and the chance of bullets hitting are going to be very low. So she is proud of her tiny frame. This humorous back and forth loosens up the soldiers around them, and smiles begin to spread. Schwarzkopf admits defeat and praises Tanya for the best logical argument for being a picky eater that he had ever heard. With that, they begin to lift off. Schwarzkopf tells the company to get their game faces on and make sure Second Lieutenant Degrachev doesn't steal all their prey. Charge! I'll be honest, I find it a little bit strange that it looks like every single soldier here is armed with what looks like MG-34s. It's a really good machine gun. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was the first squad level light or medium machine gun. But it's heavy. It's a heavy gun. And it drinks bullets like frat boys drink cheap beer. But, the rule of cool, I guess, is what's important. Yeah, you can't argue with the results that giving every soldier a light machine gun might give you. They zip over the battlefield, raining fire on the hapless fools below them. It looks like each bullet has the power of a hand grenade by the looks of it. The mix of military timelines here it's odd, maybe a little funny. It's a World War I field with World War II weapons, We have bannermen still running around on the front lines, and officers in powdered wigs and big hats. So, it tells you exactly who's underneath that hat. Schwarzkopf orders his men to focus on targeting officers and radio operators. And, well, one of those frames there, I'm not really sure what those halo-looking magic circles are supposed to be. Maybe they're supposed to pick up radio signals. Maybe they're, there to help them aim better. They never really explain that. And then pop go the officers and the radios. Tanya notices that Visha's face has changed since their first engagement. She reminisces to the time when little Visha was running around blue in the face and puking all over the place. She pats herself on the back for training up the newbie. She is once again reminded about the potential of all humans if given the right training and experiences. All the while blasting off amazing magic and shredding enemy soldiers. Like, literally shredding enemy soldiers. The 205th continued to rain fire on the Francois attackers, and Tanya unleashes massive blasts, vaporizing them where they stand. She wonders why the Francois generals continue to throw promising young lives into the Empire to be turned into fertilizer. Their anachronistic military paradigm they continue to follow is a crime against humanity. She remembers from her own world how militaries that continued to practice trench warfare were inevitably defeated by modern mechanized units and blitzkrieg tactics. Artillery plows, mages push, then foot soldiers advance. Alright, ain't exactly Sun Tzu, but the last frame here portrays it perfectly. Those were the words Visha remembers from the safety of her desk at cadet school on a warm spring afternoon, trying to fight off sleep. Now she is seeing that strategy put into deadly effect right in front of her, courtesy the tutelage of Professor Degrachev. Like, here I get serious, Dragon Ball Z Kamehameha vibes here. Right? It looks like Tanya is just setting the whole sky on fire. Visha is in awe of Tanya and understands that this is what it takes to win the Silver Wings Assault Medal and survive. They get an order from Captain... not Captain. I made a mistake before. He's not a captain. He is a first lieutenant. Alright, I got... Shoi is second lieutenant. Chui is first lieutenant. Tai is captain. He's not a captain. I don't know. After the way he leads and fights, he's probably not far off. So again, Lieutenant Schwarzkopf tells them they need to pull out because in 300 seconds, Allied artillery would flatten the area. And here we have Tanya in the background. Check that little top left corner there. She's in the background just sweeping the skies clear, like she has a broom made of magic. We see a hole open up in the clouds underneath some bombers or transports with escorting mages by the look of it, and they get torched by a Death Star beam by the looks of it. Visha realizes Tanya has no mercy against even retreating enemies and wonders if she should do the same. I'm pretty sure that, that runs on the border, or just like that's an edge of an war crime. But, mission accomplished. So they head back home. They have a quick debriefing at HQ, and they head to their bunks, where Visha collapses on the ground, exhausted. As a young woman in her prime, she is a little concerned about her body odor. Even though everyone is in the same boat as her, she can't help but feel, just a little self-conscious. There are no showers to be had here, and the only other female there is, well, yeah. Good night, Lieutenant. Tanya is out cold. head hits the pillow, and out like a light. Yeah, it's a good soldier. Gotta sleep when you can. And Visha is just glad that they've been given beds. And after getting a whiff of herself, yeah, decides that maybe a change of underwear and a quick towel off are in order. The middle frame here is great. A call for the company to gather up for an emergency blares, and Tanya is immediately awake and ready. Does she sleep with that rifle? Looks like it. They form up and get told by Lieutenant Schwarzkopf that, well, it's not good news. We learn from Visha that she's been with the company for a month now, maybe a little longer, and she knows the lieutenant that when he becomes stoic, something really bad has happened. Schwarzkopf tells them that a mage company was intercepted by two never-encountered enemy mage companies. This comes as a shock to the rest of the company. They seem to be hand-picked mages to support Francois' assault, and they are focusing on picking off Imperial spotters. Artillery is trying to push off the Francois attack, but they don't know where their own shells are falling. Their mission today is to meet up with the mage company, reinforce them, and save the spotters that are being pursued. Visha really wants to help because they have the same job as her friend Elia. Schwarzkopf brings up the fact that Tanya was once a spotter too, and he wants to get her input. Of course, Tanya says she would never do that job again if she could help it. Visha even knows that Tanya was seriously injured during that assignment, and that hardens her resolve to save the spotters. Schwarzkopf says that if anyone could save them, it could be her. Tanya side-eyes Visha and says that while it may be possible for her, Visha, on the other hand, is at her limit. She doesn't want to lose anyone by taking them on a rescue mission, and then it makes things harder for everyone else. Might turn into a double rescue mission. Schwarzkopf then orders Tanya and Visha to split up. This sounds like a death sentence to Visha, and she goes into panic mode. This is where we get to see some character development. Visha is starting to bloom. She stands up and asks Lieutenant Schwarzkopf to rescind the order. On top of that, she volunteers for the rescue mission. Now we get that anime battle of wills and auras. Not sure if they really would be releasing magic here, since the enemy might sense it and zero in using their arty. Tanya puts down her foot to stop Visha, but Visha refuses to stand down and promises to keep up. I love the design of their stances. With tears in her eyes, she pulls out her trump card and says that she is an Imperial mage and soldier, and she has a duty. Schwarzkopf sides with Visha on this one, since it pulled on his heartstrings. A cute girl crying about doing her duty no matter the cost? Yeah, you'd fold too. Schwarzkopf, like a doting father, gives Tanya another pair of mages to help carry out the mission. Schwarzkopf says he knows Tanya just wants to keep Visha safe, but once someone shows their will to that extent, there is no reason to deny them that chance to put their money where their mouth is. Visha is wide-eyed in shock because this was the first time she saw Tanya as a little girl that, she really is. And Tanya really was doing all that she could just to keep Visha safe. Tanya begrudgingly accepts her role and promises to do her best. Schwarzkopf says the rest of the company will be supporting the 403rd Mage Company, and Tanya can call on them if the rescue mission gets too hot. They wish one another good luck and start getting ready to leave. Then, Devil Tanya shows up and double checks to see if Visha is really up to the mission. Yeah, look at that face. But look at this juxtaposition here. It's outstanding. Slightly askew helmet, shoujo manga like eyes and smile, and the energetic answer to her akogare no senpai. With the rifle, dirty uniform, and gloves stained with blood and dirt, this comic is pure gold. Yeah, you cannot go wrong with this aesthetic. So we find out that a Sergeant Shones, right, that's the guy with the big smile on the back, he is the one assigned to aid Tanya, and he tells her that he's been on the Rhine longer than anyone else, so she can rely on him. So that probably means that he was stationed there when the attack happened, or even before that. He might have been actually near the end of his deployment when the attack happened, and well, he kind of gets roped in to enjoy a second deployment, maybe. So now it's time to get to work. Now, looking at this last picture, it's a good picture. All right, we have beautiful, beautiful Visha on the back. Her helmet's still off to the side. Her fist balled, ready to go. A little bit nervous, but determined. But then I look at these weapons. I look at the weapons in Tanya's hands. Like, did they shrink them down to match her? Like, I really don't think that they gave her customized weapons. Like, the military might be willing to go out of their way for some things, but no. For the individual soldier, they're not going to scale down weapons for one person. But look what she has. Like, these are definitely World War II weapons. On her soldier, not soldier, I'm sorry. On her shoulder, that's definitely an MG34. And on her left hand, that's a G43. Alright, so, I mean, this was an awesome combination. If you played the old Medal of Honor games, those World War II ones, then yeah. If you played either as the Germans or fighting the Germans, then you definitely wanted to get the G43. Alright, if you play COD, it's like running a saw with the M14 EBR. Yeah, guns, 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 guns. If you're listening to this, I know you like guns. Alright, and that is chapter 4.